right, welcome to episode 10 of the Body Geeks podcast. Mason and I were just talking, trying to figure out what this episode is going to be about. And I posted a couple days ago on my stories, I posted a thing that said like, I need, questions for the podcast, thinking that somebody would send me something. Maybe they want to know about, I don't know, what steroids do classic physique guys take, or something like that. There would be like a huge, like clickbait, kind of headline, I guess, something maybe get us a lot of views.
Right.
But you know what? None of my followers even posted a damn question. I didn't get one single fucking question from you guys. So you're not going to get any of that. No, none of those answers, none of the stuff that you want. I'm bitter. I'm all super bitter about this. I thought that I'd at least get somebody wanting to know something, but no, apparently I'm irrelevant. So did you get any, Mason?
I got one, and I guess we could start there. I did think we could even do I guess you could put your phone on live and I could put mine on live. We could try that and see what we get out of that. But I'd say to start it off, the one thing I got was, since Brandon is back to trying to get some size, are you going to do anything? And then size or lean was the question. So I guess you could kind of break it down into maybe what you're doing right now and how that's going, or maybe what's different this time from, previous times. And then I could probably, I guess, go into my goals a little bit.
Well, first thing, there is no trying about putting size back on for me. I'm not trying to do anything. I'm doing it. And I use the word try sometimes, but there's no trying in my life. I'm doing it or I'm not. And that's pretty much it. So I am putting some size back on. My intentions right now are to get back and surpass my previous best as far as classic physique standards go. I have no desire at this point in time to try and go back to full on bodybuilding. I feel that I actually maxed that out. I think that granted, could I have done more in bodybuilding? Yes. Like I could have built more muscle. I was still young when I stopped doing it. But I tried everything that everybody else was doing. I really gave it my all and lived that lifestyle. I ran into some hiccups like with the ulcerative colitis and things like that, as far as being able to eat enough. And, but put it this way, as genetically gifted as I am in a lot of ways, with the amount of effort I put into it, I would know by now if I had a real future in open bodybuilding. And I just don't think that I did. The heaviest I ever got was in the 250s with abs, so pretty lean 250, but that every time it translated down to like, 225, 230 on stage. And at 6 foot tall, or I'm technically 6 foot and a half inch. I would need to be like 270 on stage, 280, or bigger. So I think, Mason, did you freeze?
Just for a second. Second.
All right. So, I guess my point is that, like, despite trying everything for years to do open bodybuilding, I still fell like 40, 50 pounds short of where I need to be to actually be like on the Olympia stage or something like that. So when classic physique came out, I was actually kind of against it at first, because I thought it was going to be like another men's physique thing. And even though I coach guys for men's physique now, I've accepted it as, a thing. I hated it for a long time too, because I still don't really like it. I try and tell all my men's physique guys, let's go to classic, but when classic came out, that fell in line with what I believed in as far as bodybuilding anyways. I was always more focused on the aesthetics, the old school aspect of posing. I like the physiques from the 80s and early 90s better than the mass monster guys. So I was like, that's cool. And I did 2 shows that were a week apart for classic in the first year that it came out. I won my class at the LA, and then I took, 7th or something at the USA's, which is a good first showing for my national show. So anyways, getting back on track here is that I stopped competing because I wanted to come off of all the gear so that I could have a child with Becca. And I've done that now. Got the first one, got the second one on the way. And I feel like I'm at a point in my life where, despite the chaos that's still going on with the rest of my goals and raising a family and stuff, that I was back, like I needed to get back in the gym. I need to start training again and see where this, I hate the term journey, but see where this journey takes me. See
Yeah.
Just see what's going to happen. The thing I'm most invested in is my coaching. I'm really enjoying that. It's giving me the same sort of fire and reward as I got when I was competing myself. But in the future, when my kids are older and I'm telling them my story, I don't feel comfortable with my last competition being the end. I don't feel comfortable with that being it. So I think that I can actually get back to and surpass my previous best for Classic. And I'd like to see how far Classic is going to go. I'm currently 33 years old, which means I haven't even gotten into my prime years yet. So there's still plenty of time left. My focus right now is to just put on as much size naturally as possible. As I bring my second child into this world, as we purchase a home and get more established in a career and just kind of get things more settled. But I'm hoping within the next couple of years that I'll be back on stage and pursuing that to see how far it's going to go. But at the end of the day, even if I'm not competing, I'll still be exercising and lifting. I can't, that's just in me. So, I took the time off, started lifting a couple times and stopped. The last time stopped because the pandemic, all the gyms closed. So I was like, well, I'll take a break again. But now I've been back at it for like 3 months. I put on about 10, 15 pounds. I'm using a high intensity method, which is similar to like dog crap training.
Right.
So I'm in the gym 3 days a week for about 40 to 60 minutes at a time. And I'm focused on progression. So I keep a logbook and I try and beat my top set for every exercise every time I go to the gym. So I'm either getting more reps or more weight. I've set my threshold at 20 reps. So doing a rest pause set, my first set to failure is usually going to fail anywhere between 12 and 15 reps. I'll rest for about 15 seconds and then take that same weight to failure again. And if I can surpass 20 reps total there, I bump the weight and I bump it by the lowest possible margin. So it's usually like 2.5 pounds or 5 pounds or whatever. So that's pretty much it. I mean, I could bore people for a long time going into the details. So I'll gladly do that if that's what people want. But basically going to the gym and trying to do more each time, whether it be more reps, even just one rep, or adding 5 pounds onto whatever the exercise is. I'm running into, small issues here or there, things that I need to fix with my physique as far as posture wise. And, my right shoulder always gave me a bunch of crap.
Right.
My lumbar, my neck, my left groin, a lot of old battle wounds that I'm trying to intelligently work around. I've had some, what I think is a nerve issue with my left side. The long head of my left tricep isn't firing 100%. Okay. And I had some kind of like referred pain in my left pec, which was kind of weird too, but that seems to have subsided, kind of fixed itself. So my next thing is I actually can't wait to get back get some tissue work done on my back. And I keep a ton of knots and stress or whatever you want to call it in my traps. Yeah. So I think that's kind of messing with things right now, but otherwise training's pretty close to 100%. As far as nutrition, I'm very loose with that. I'm not really tracking anything. I'm not really eating a specific meal plan. I'm just eating. And I'm still kind of following what I was doing before, which was I eat when I'm hungry. I'm not trying to force anything, but if the scale isn't averaging, I weigh myself every morning. I find the average. If it's not averaging up even by a small decimal point, then it means I'm not eating enough and I will increase my food consumption. Now people say, well, how do you know if you're doing that without tracking? When you've been doing it this long, you kind of track without tracking, you know?
Kind of.
Yeah. So a few things I'm doing that I think might actually help people if you're somebody who struggles to get calories in. I found a cool product from True Nutrition. It's a powdered avocado oil. So I can get 20 grams of a monounsaturated fat source from avocado in the size of a protein scoop. So I'll do like a 50-gram protein shake with 20 grams of avocado oil powder. And then I mix that in 16 ounces of rice milk, which is like 60 grams of carbs. So that's like, what is that? Like a 600 calorie shake. It's pretty good macros and good sources. The protein shake I use is a mix of egg, whey, and casein. So, that's something I'm doing. Usually every night before bed, I throw some flaxseed in there and some fiber in there as well. I'm still taking my probiotics. So I'm taking more of like, I guess, a holistic health approach this time, as opposed to just cramming the calories in. And so far, so good. I hit a new high on the scale at 193 pounds the other day. So I've been kind of fluctuating between like 187 to 192, 193. And that'll probably continue to fluctuate up. I would anticipate by the end of July, I'll be, I won't be lighter than 190. It'll be like between 190, 195. just kind of let it creep on up like that. Um, I think that I can get back up to north of 205 pounds naturally without any sort of other assistance. So
Right.
with my weight cap in classic, I think as an amateur is like 220 now.
Okay.
As a pro, maybe like 230. So, you know, by the time I'm competing again and stuff, I'll have to get with a doctor, and I'll be old enough so I can go on like TRT and figure it out from there. But you know, I can't, especially now with my career, I'm not going to do anything that's against policy or against the law. So I have to, it's another challenge that I'll have to figure out how to do that. But I think the health focus is the way to go.
Right. Right.
So yeah, a lot of people. I've actually got a few questions over the last couple months where people saw the results I made and they were like, "What are you taking?" Like, okay, so what I'm taking is I was super jacked for like a decade, and
Yeah.
this is just coming back fast because of that.
Right.
I'm not doing anything special right now, but there's my little synopsis.
That's it. No, that's a good breakdown. I mean, it's about, especially because I know how detailed you can be and how detailed you are. That was probably about as quick of a breakdown as you could possibly give. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's, I think that was pretty much all the nuts and bolts, you know, that had some good information in it and some good breakdown. So I think that's like a good, I mean, it's a pretty non BS, like meat and potatoes approach to, I think, for anybody, you know,
Yeah.
even if it is hard for, or even if it is easier for you to gain weight, uh you know, something like tracking a logbook or tracking your training, or just being accountable for something somewhere, I think is a good start, you know.
Well,
And
I always looked at it like this, right? Like, it's something I started having my clients do, and I actually never really did this myself until I started coaching people a lot more. Is the just weighing yourself every morning on the same scale for
mhm,
consistency's sake, and writing it down or logging your phone or whatever you're going to do, and finding the average for the week.
okay,
Because you know, if you're weighing yourself roughly at the same time every morning, that's pretty good control for variables, right?
right,
Because
right,
if you sometimes weigh yourself in the morning, sometimes in the evening, there's a big fluctuation there.
right,
So if it's roughly the same time every morning, and then you're finding your average, and then you compare weekly averages, that's going to give you a better look of, are you in a caloric maintenance or a surplus or a deficit, or what's going on. So even if you're a skinny guy like me that's like a hard gainer, you know, I should see that my average from week to week should be trending upwards. If it's maintaining, guess what? Caloric maintenance. If it's, you know, if I'm losing weight, guess what? Caloric deficit, right? But that applies to even people that are like full on endomorphs that put on body fat easily, is
yeah,
you get to see how much weight you're gaining, and literally based on what that number is, that's how you're gonna control your diet. Now, I said that I'm not tracking things with the diet because I'm not punching it into an app, and I'm not writing down the foods that I eat. However, I'm pretty routine with my
yeah,
food, with what I eat. The only thing that's the variable is when Beck and I go out to eat with Riley, like I'm eating something else, but I develop these habits that I can't break, where I'll look at a menu and I'll order something based off of what I need.
yeah,
So if I know that I had a huge breakfast, huge lunch, maybe another meal, and I've had my shakes, and I'm like, man, I've put the food down today. You know, I know I don't have to eat a huge calorie laden meal for dinner. So maybe I'll eat something I just feel like eating. I'm probably not going to be hungry by then anyway. So I'll probably eat something lighter. And it's just, yeah, if you looked at how I was tracking, it would show that I then ate less, which kept me more in line with whatever caloric total I needed on that day. At the same time, if I missed lunch because I was busy with work, well, guess what? Dinner is probably like a 3,000 calorie meal. It's massive with whatever I want to eat. So I don't recommend this to people. Like, track your shit, because that's
yeah,
going to work
yeah,
better. I could do it for now, but guess what? I'm going to hit a plateau at some point in the future, and it's going to require me to be more detailed with tracking my nutrition and counting macros and things like that again. But really, what it comes down to is see what direction the scale is trending, and you only can do that by finding averages and comparing weekly averages. And then the logbook with your training. No matter what training program you have, you should keep a logbook of your training. Some people do it mentally. I've done it before too, but really, when you start breaking down like your top sets, you don't need to worry about your warm up sets. Nobody cares. Your top sets. And if you see that you're progressively doing more from a week to week basis with your training program, you're stimulating the muscle. Because if you're training hard enough to do more, you're going to stimulate the muscle to grow. So you see how those two things blend together, right? It's just, what's the scale doing? Is it trending up by how much? Oh, a pound or two a week or whatever? Like, honestly, half a pound a week is totally fine. That adds
Yeah,
up, right?
that's great.
And you're getting stronger, performing better in the gym. Well, what do you think you're building? What kind of weight is coming on? Because you're not going to get significantly stronger for a long period of time without adding tissue, and you're not going to see the scale isn't going to increase without adding tissue as well. Um, so yeah, it's I'm using a lot of words to say something very simple, but really that's what it comes down to is like you don't have to really overcomplicate so much stuff because that's you're just tracking what your body is doing and you're just adjusting according to that. So if you're trying to grow, the scale should get bigger, uh, and you should be getting stronger, performing better. If one of those things is happening, like if the scale is getting bigger but your performance isn't increasing,
Yeah.
pay attention to progress pictures. Maybe you're getting fat.
Yeah.
You know, scale isn't increasing but the strength is increasing. Sometimes I'll let that ride.
Yeah.
Maybe I won't bump calories for a while. Maybe I'll just say, okay, well, let's see how much stronger I can get at this body weight, and I won't add calories. And then all of a sudden, the scale got heavier without adding calories. And it doesn't make sense. It's like, wait, I should have needed more fuel to add more tissue. But you know, the body's metabolism is very intricate. There's a lot more going on there. So, you know, point is progress somewhere, and it'll lead to progression everywhere. You don't have to always be firing 100% across all metrics of monitoring progression. But if you're not progressing at all on anything, that's when you need a significant change, new program,
Yes.
new diet, whatever, you know? So,
Yeah.
so yeah.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, I think, like you said, for most people, I think, especially when they're starting out, just try keeping it simple is such a big thing. Like I remember when I first, uh, I mean, every time like I first started something, it's like anytime like me and you first started maybe like an Arnold program or like dog crap, or you'd be surprised like what different stimulus can do, or what different like variation of calories or macros. And I mean, that was the thing when I started training. I remember when I started training, outside of high school, I was all of a sudden was doing a bodybuilding split and I was doing Arnold's bodybuilding split, which was chest and back, bis and tries, and then like shoulders. He also had an AM PM thing, which I didn't do. And then I also didn't do legs for a few years, but like I would do them here and there. But yeah, I mean, my legs were strong from high school and stuff. So I was just like, I got to catch up my body, which actually, if you do look at my high school football pictures, I do look like the opposite of like every day is leg day. Cause my whole lower body was huge. I had big ass, big legs, especially in like, football pads. And then like my upper body wasn't necessarily skinny, but it was definitely not what my lower body was. So,
Yeah.
but I just remember in that there was a first 6 weeks where I started tracking. And I had it was when I was at Gold's Fullerton, the actual Gold's, and on Placentia,
Yeah.
and
Turned into Coliseum.
yeah,
Used to be a
and
powerhouse.
used to be
Yeah.
powerhouse.
There's all
Yeah,
kinds of stuff.
yeah, and then I remember that first like 6 weeks, I would just also talk to like, it was at the time Milamar Sarchev's sister. I can't remember. I want to say her name's Jackie. But anyway, she was like, "Oh, this is like, what I recommend eating." First time I had ever seen anything like that. All I heard was no carb or like low carb. So I immediately just stopped eating carbs. And then I was actually keeping track of my protein.
But
And
I think in that era, that's when like the Atkins diet was like incredible. Like, I mean,
right.
keto and low carb stuff has been popular for 70 years now, but
Yeah.
like it's an ebb and flow to it, like where it comes and goes in terms of popularity. And when the Atkins thing hit, people thought carbs were just freaking evil, and they still the
Yeah.
keto people today are weird like that too. But
Yeah.
yeah, that era, I remember that too, because everybody was doing weird stuff to eliminate carbs as if carbs were the source of all problems.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember at the time though, I mean, I like it was funny because I was probably, what they say not to do and what I generally recommend people not to do as far as just like diving in head first, which is kind of what I did. I had gone from training, a few months out of the year, maybe say at the most 6 months a year, because of football and stuff. So off-season weight training and all that, and then like whatever weight room extra stuff we got, and then I would do some stuff at the gym. But all of a sudden I was doing nothing. I went from being an athlete and having a coach tell me what to do, when to do it, how often to do it, all that stuff, just active, to not doing any of that whatsoever. Then I like during that time my senior year, I went and seen a IFBB Pro show. It's the first time I'd ever seen one, and that
Was
was
it
actually what
was it the Iron Man?
it was the Iron Man. That's
Yeah.
it's what actually turned into the Fit Expo. And then the next year I went with Anthony and we went to the expo there at Pasadena Convention Center. But you know, I'd gone and I just remember like getting into the books and stuff. And then, you know, I realized I was like, man, my body weight's changing, or my body weight's staying about the same, but I look a lot different. And I was like, it's probably because I'm not doing anything anymore. You know, I was like 220 at the time. So then I talked to, we'll just say her name was Jackie. I talked to Jackie at the time. She told me like, I mean, based off of what I was eating a bunch of carbs. So I literally just went from like pretty much doing nothing to, I remember getting the January issue of the Muscle and Fitness from my Tia Rachel. Shout out to my Tia Rachel for doing this for me. She bought me a year subscription for Christmas, and every January issue, for those of you that don't know, I don't know if it's still the thing, but it's an Arnold special. So the Arnold special, this had his split, AM PM split, and I went from doing nothing, pretty much like, you know, going to the gym here or there, maybe doing some push-ups, to all of a sudden training 4 to 5 times a week, even though their program recommends 6. Like I said, I wasn't really doing legs. And then probably eating no carbs, or probably eating like, you know, a ridiculous amount of carbs, to eating almost no carbs, like maybe less than 50 grams, and then eating just high protein. And when I say high protein, I mean like I would buy a crispy chicken sandwich and peel off the bread and then just eat the sandwich. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I said, still not awesome, but like just completely 180 of what I had been doing. And I remember from in like a 6-week period, I'd put like 3 inches on my chest, like an inch on my arms. Not too far after that, like within 2 to 3 months, I'd gone from like 220 to like 205, maybe the last time, or 200, I think. And I think that might have been the last time I saw 200 on the scale. And I was 19, or I might have been, I think I was 18 at the time. And you know, I remember my body fat went completely down and all that. But like I said, like
But
long story short,
I remember because I met you. I think you were around 20, maybe.
yeah,
Because I remember, like, yeah, I wasn't a wild kid by any means, but when we first met, I was like 18, 19, whatever, like
yeah.
college kid, and we were talking about drinking, and you were like,
I knew you're gonna say this one too.
you were like, I've never drank, and I was like, what?
Yeah,
What do you mean? Like, you know, because where I come from, like, start drinking at 14 or whatever, like, you know.
right.
But yeah, Mason didn't drink until he turned 21, and so those years you made a lot of progress, and then I think for a couple years after 21, when you discovered beer, then, you know, you still made progress, but I think you also put on a little more body fat than you wanted because you got the carbs back.
Right. Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
So,
that was when I first got to over 250, 260, was during those beer drinking years.
yeah,
I got really strong, but yeah. But
that's
yeah,
also when I
like
think
I said,
the beard started showing up too. You know, you had long
yes,
hair and a beard, and then the hair went away
that
and the
was
beard
around
stayed.
that time. Yeah,
Man.
but I mean that was like the thing, you know, like me and Brandon said, was it was a big 180. Like I did kind of dive in the deep end, but I also just was like, hey, instead of doing this, I'm going to do this. And like it was just training. And I remember, like, I've told my girlfriend about it. Like I remember I would like be barely even halfway through a session and just being like, I still have halfway to go. And like, you know, like just being mortified, like that I had to do the rest of what I had to do. And nobody else was making me do it, but it was like a thing to myself, like, I just got to finish this, you know? And it's like, it all was different progressions, you know, like the weight went up 5 pounds, or I went from doing at the time assisted pull-ups, you know, with those assisted machines, to doing, you know, all eventually 5 sets of 10. Like all that was just little progress here or there, taking off the weight stack to do pull-ups or dips and all that stuff. But, you know, like you said, it was there was tracking to it, and there was you know, just effort. But, you know, it wasn't like to the point where I was like getting into my micros and this and that. At the time, it was just like I stopped doing something and I'm just going to do something, and then I did it, you know.
I think there's something to be said with that too. Like, I think we kind of talked about this on the last podcast, or I mentioned it briefly, was that for the longest time, like probably back even from the beginning of weights, but especially since like pumping iron, like Arnold's era through the 80s and for the better part of the 90s, really until the internet kind of came and we started sharing information more efficiently. But a lot of it was just people taking pride in their ability to out train other people. Of
Yeah.
like, oh, like, well, you can't work out with me because I'll crush you because I'm bigger, stronger, and have more endurance. And I'll just put myself through more pain than you're willing to take. And people would pride themselves off of that. And I think
Right.
that kind of pushed everybody to push themselves harder and harder in the gym and kind of find these new levels. Now, it probably led to a lot of injuries. It probably even led to a lot of like, regression for some people because they were just overdoing it. Overtraining is a thing. It's a thing that most people never come close to. So, you can don't worry about that. Just try and do more. And I think that, I did that, you did that. That kind of slow progression like that, just with this mentality of I want to do more. Like I want to be able to do more. I want
Yeah.
to be able to do more than that guy. I want to be able to do more than my training partners. Pushes you to new levels, and that leads to a crazy physique and abilities and things. I mean, I know that modern day powerlifters have taken things to another level, but you and I have talked before. Like, I mean, I'll speak more for me because you ended up doing a lot more like specific stuff towards the end when you started hitting monster numbers. But we both got to like 1,700 pound totals by just training like bodybuilders at a 24-hour fitness. No
Yeah.
specialty equipment, no specialty bars, no specialty programs. It was just like we were just trying to train harder than everybody else. And and that total is nothing compared to what a lot of the guys are putting up nowadays. But I think it's just something to be said that like, as opposed to the guy that starts out now that can't bench 135 and he's already on some special, training block and,
Right. Right.
worried about what is his, the glycemic index of his carbs and shit. It's like, dude, you need to just
eat
hit it.
a sandwich.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I remember I spent probably the first few years of college. That was like real close to when 1,3-D first came out in the pre-workouts. And I'm talking about DMAA or 1,3-dimethylamylamine for those of you listening.
Right.
And that stuff, like I was just tweaking. I put that on, throw on some dubstep or whatever was popular at the time. And I would finish my whole workout and sometimes do it backwards. Like I'd go through it and I'm like, I don't feel like leaving the gym because I'm all tweaking. And then I would just do it all over again, but just go the reverse order. And just because I didn't know any better at the time.
Yeah.
And a lot of that though, I think it kind of paved the way for a lot of future progress because you get yourself in such like, I mean, the body has an amazing ability to adapt, right?
Yeah.
When you throw just a bunch of shit at it. And when you get yourself into that sort of condition, like endurance and stuff, like a triathlete with weights, well, then you actually apply like a legit diet and a intelligent training program, and your progress is just crazy. It could have been the pro hormones I was taking from the shop at the time too, but yeah, you never know.
I also think, like I've told other people, is there's been clients that I've had in the past where I've taken them through kind of like one of our old bodybuilding workouts where it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna warm up with 4 sets of 25 on leg extension, 4 sets of 25 on leg curl, and they're like, wait, what warm up? I'm like, yeah, that's just the first thing. We might finish with that too. It just depends on how we feel, and then like I've had them be like, that day kind of just because it's not what because of, I think, the generation gap. And then also just because they kind of got started out in powerlifting, they're like, I didn't know like what that type of training was, and I told them, I said part of it was, because that's the way we came up, but also I used to do that in a way to, if I missed a lift or if I did this or I did that, then it was a way for me to punish myself. Like I called it like a punishment set, and it was like, I never wanted to punish myself, but what you do something like that every now and then, or I remember there was a period of time, didn't we have like where we could see how many times we could rep like 135 on squat or like 225 on squat. And all it was just a way to be like, I don't want to do this, but like every now and then it's also another like benchmarker to be like, hey, last time I did 60 reps, I did 70 this time. So there's some growth somewhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think like when you do something like that, not saying that everybody needs to do that all the time but every now and then it's like these CrossFit workouts or, some of these things where it's like you run till this, or you just kind of do it every now and then to see like, hey, like what you're made of,
Yeah.
And then
I spent probably a good 6 months with walking lunges being my finisher on leg day.
Walking lunges.
So it was the 4x25 leg extension leg curl, then squats, then either hacks or leg press, and the
Mhm.
shoulder mounted hack squat. And both of those would either have some sort of strip set or drop set involved. So crazy high
Right.
volume. And then the final thing was walking lunges. Now, I didn't have a set number or weight I was going to use on that. Use dumbbells, use a barbell until you can't do a lunge with that weight.
Yeah.
Then do body weight and do that till you either puke or you can't do that with body weight and your legs literally stop working. And like that was just what I wanted to do. That was my mentality. And that was one of the days that I took pride in when people wanted to work out with me. I was like, we're going to train legs.
Yeah.
I want to see what you got if you're going to hang. And, most people would quit like after squats or something, but,
Yeah.
and then sometimes I'd finish it and, whether I threw up or whether my legs weren't working properly or whatever, on the way out, I'd be like, I never do we used to call them the good girl, bad girl machines, the
Yeah.
adductor and abductors, I'm like, maybe I'll just hit a few sets of these just because like, I don't recommend that to people now. But I think that mentality, I'll recommend that like you got to be willing to push yourself that far, like to find out what you're made of. Like you said, I think
Yeah.
that's people need to do that. You got to know what you got before you can push hard,
Right.
like if I said, I want you to go 80% of this exercise, how do you know what 80% is if you don't know what 100 is,
Yes.
So
Yeah. And I think that's all that kind of set the tone for it is you just kind of get in a mindset where you know what hard is after that, like, so when it's a day and, you're a little tired or whatever, and you're like midway through something or you got a little bit left, you're like, hey, well, like, I know what it's like to get really close to being just completely out of it. Like, this isn't that, I can
yeah,
push a little harder. Like, this is me just not wanting to do it. You know what I mean? Like, and then those days are fine too. Cause I mean, shit, I'm sure you have those days just like I have those days where you just get in there and you're like, man, everything hurts today. Or, this warm up is whatever. Like, I'm just going home. That's
yeah.
fine too. Like every now and then you can reward yourself with one of those,
Well,
but
that's as much as I talk, proudly about the dumb shit we did like when we were younger. The
yeah,
things that I wish I would have done differently. One was learning how to deload properly, learning how
yeah,
to actually rest and take breaks, and then also learn how to take care of myself with, whether that be mobility work, but even beyond that, which is something that even I'm not the best at right now, but to just look at posture cues and do corrective exercises to fix them. Like the best bodybuilders are those with great posture.
yeah,
The best powerlifters are those with great posture. So like if we spend a lot of time sitting at a computer, like a lot of people are on the phone like this all day long, and then you look at your spine, it's going to be all jacked up. And so use exercise to correct that, and I guarantee you that that will translate to a better physique and actually better numbers on the platform as well. So um so that's if I can go back and do it over again, like find my younger self, I'd say, hey, push yourself hard, by all means, keep doing that, but take some time off every once in a while and do a lot more like rehabilitative shit now. Um,
yes, yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
so
because now I'm trying to do all of it.
yeah,
Now I'm trying to do all of it in as little as training as possible.
yeah. Well, I think you and I both, we didn't really start focusing too much on the rehabilitative stuff until we got an injury. It's
Yeah,
like the whole
yeah,
point should be like to sort of try and prevent the injuries from before they happen, because you know injuries suck, and Mason can speak more to that than even I can. But yeah, kind of got off
yeah.
topic a little bit, but it's good
No, no,
information.
no. Yeah, I definitely I know what you're talking about. I mean, like I said, we did that like buildup of all that, but it did take me to the point where the first time I ever got, well, wasn't the first time, but it was the first time I got like an entire body of Gratson and ART. Is it Graston or Gratson? I don't know. I
Yeah,
always get it
Graston.
mixed up.
Yeah.
I just say it fast like Worcestershire so that people don't know. So people don't know I'm fucking it up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember the first time I got it, the Danny from High Five, he was like, you're probably one of the worst three people I've ever worked on in like all my, and because at that point I think I was like 30, so I hadn't done anything. I mean, if you want to count high school lifting, then 16 years, you know what I mean? But if you just count like after high school, then I guess 12 years. But I hadn't done anything like that, and like I remember people that I've told to go, I'd give them like horror stories, and they're like, "Yeah, it wasn't that bad." And then I'm like, "Oh yeah, I have to remember that I was like one of his worst patients." You know what I mean? Like, so yeah,
Well,
get
my
some
my
regular work done.
my eye opener was actually with you remember James, the chiropractor?
Oh
He lives
yeah,
in Ann Arbor.
James.
Yeah. So this is like a decade ago now. It was like 2012, I think,
Right,
maybe
right.
2013. He had just like graduated chiropractor school and he had access to all this like cool tech at the place he was working. And he said, dude, come down. He's like, let's do x-rays. We'll look at everything. I'll show you all the stuff. Like, so I popped over there and he did x-rays on me and he was like, yeah, this is good. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like 24 years old and like freaking built. Like, what do you like? I'm perfect. My health is
Yeah.
perfect. What do you mean? He's like, so you see, you have like these compressed discs in your neck and your lumbar is supposed to have a curve in it. It doesn't. Your neck is also supposed to have a curve in it, and it's just like straight. And he's like, if you continue, like it continues to degrade like this, he's like, you're gonna have a ton of issues with your neck and your lower back. And I was just like, I bought a foam roller after that. I was like, okay, well maybe I'll start foam rolling.
Yeah.
But no, I did. He gave me some other like tools and some different things. So I started paying more attention then, and I think kind of worked on it a little bit. But but that's I think a perfect example of like, yeah, if I had known that at the beginning, maybe I wouldn't have ever ended up in that issue. And
Yeah,
I
true.
I still get it. Like I'm almost certain that the nerve stuff I'm dealing with now is probably due to my neck because I know I haven't done anything for a couple of years now on it. And then I got to a point where every time I would deadlift, my left lumbar just had this like it, it's there's a difference between like joint pain, muscle pain, and nerve pain. That nerve pain is like a
Yeah.
fiery kind of burn, and my whole left lumbar just felt like it was on fire. Like
Mm.
it'd be totally fine, and all of a sudden, just like I'd feel it, and then I'm like, man, I can't get rid of it, and my dumb ass would just grip my teeth and just, well, I got to finish my workout. But I was probably sitting there compressing discs further and doing more damage or whatever it was, right? So, you know, I was gonna say with your injury though, you didn't have any like warning signs with it, did you? It just kind of happened, right?
Yes and no, because I mean, my left side was bothering me for, and when I did get my MRI, it said I had a 4 millimeter on my L5S1, which is the one that bothers me, and then I had a 1 millimeter somewhere else. So I'm guessing based off of like what I had been thinking before, because I remember I had a mattress that was literally maybe close to, if not 20 years old. And I remember there was like a coil that was starting to stick through it. So then I flipped it over. And I like the side, you could tell what side I had been sleeping on for all those years. Because it looked like you broke it in half and it was just like, like it was just depressed on that side. So I remember when I actually bought a mattress, I was like, oh, this is what like comfort's supposed to feel like, you know? And I mean, there was so many times during the prep previous to the injury where, my left side would be stiff. It wasn't like the pain that I have. And I mean, it was similar, but it wasn't like that at all. So I'm guessing I had a small herniation of some sort. It just wasn't rubbing on the nerve. But usually I would foam roll a little longer. I would, take an extra day if I needed to, and then like get to training. But I wouldn't be training in pain much, every now and then if I was being really dumb. But especially like over those last couple of years, I was being a lot smarter about it, and pulling back when I needed to, or calling it a day earlier if it just wasn't going right. But so I mean, there might have been but also my whole left side, when I think about it, who knows where this stemmed from? Could have been from football, could have been from skating. Um, like you said, like that, like fiery pain. I remember getting that when I used to skateboard when I was like 13, 13 or 14. And I think what it was I was just too heavy to be skateboarding. Most skateboarders were like, at that time at my age were 100 to 130 pounds. For me I was almost like 150 or 160, like as an eighth grader, and then trying to do like 6 stairs and stuff. And then I remember like I'd land and I would just be like, I would feel like my spine like be like a little annoyed, and I'd be like, oh, like almost like I got the wind knocked out of me,
Yeah.
So I mean, who knows how far it could have stemmed back, but definitely, I mean, there was sometime in like 2015 or 2016 where I got like bent over by 665, and my jaw still cracks like when I eat sometimes from it. um I remember I took a helmet to my elbow in my sophomore year of high school from like one of the hardest hitters at in varsity, and he put his helmet right into my elbow, and then like my elbow would be sore from time to time. And so I just had so many things on my left side. When I was in fire academy, I remember I went from 2 shin splints to one extremely bad chronic shin splint on my left side. And
I used
then
to get those in basketball. Those are the worst.
yeah, and then I remember I fell through one of the engines because it was wood and it like broke. So then like I remember I tweaked my groin and then my hip all on my left side. So like when it's like, you know, when you talk to like maybe a chiro or a PT, they're like, oh yeah, your whole left side's been fucked up for years. And then I'm like, oh yeah, everything on my left side is almost always fucked up, you know, like,
Yeah.
so who knows? But yeah, but we'll say maybe with that, but also, I mean, at the time when, yeah, my injury did occur, it was, everything felt completely fine. I didn't have anything leading up to, there was no lingering or anything like that. I'd felt good because I think I had my new mattress at the time. So everything had felt fine. And just, yeah, I woke up the next day and like you said, like your lumbar, like my whole entire left side, it felt like somebody took a bat to it. You know, it was a
Yeah.
different kind of pain. I was like, damn, like I don't know what I did last night, but I definitely didn't feel it that night. Could have been adrenaline.
Yeah.
But yeah, I everything felt completely fine. And then when all that stuff set in the next day, I was like, oh man, this is different. But I still thought it was just nothing. So I treated it like it was nothing for 3 or 4 months, and then it wasn't going away. Treated it like QL. Went to a chiro for that. Was like, you know, jamming dumbbells and kettlebells into my psoas, and it still wasn't getting any better. So I was like, all right, I think I got to go get checked out because this is not, you know, this is not normal. So
Yeah. Yeah, man. It's kind of crazy how all these you look back over life and all these like injuries that it happens and you kind of like get over it and then you realize how long it lingers. Like you mentioned the football thing.
yeah,
Um, like I've always had my right shoulder has been, well, really crappy since baseball. And like, you know, I played baseball first couple of years of college as well. And that's actually what, I mean, really the reason why I hung up the cleats because I fell in love with weightlifting and bodybuilding. That's all I wanted to do.
right.
But the motivation behind that was that my pop time, which is from the second the ball pops the glove to throwing down to second base as a catcher. Sorry, let me retract. I was a catcher. um, that's like one of the measurements that they use for scouting and stuff like that. Is like if you have a good
Okay.
pop time, you can throw people out. And I had a horrible one throughout high school, but then I grew up right, and I had a good one in college. And we had some like NAIA scouts that were looking at us that day, and my coach wanted me to show off mine, and I was like 3 or 4 tenths of a second off my norm, which was real close. Like I think I want to say at the time, like a pro catcher is like 2.2, you know, 2.0, 2.2, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And I was probably like a 2.4, 2.3, 2.4. Like I was close, like right there. You know, it was good
Yeah.
stuff. And then I was throwing like 2.8 that day. And my coach kind of came up next to me whispering, he's like, "Hey, what the hell's wrong with you?" You know, I was like, I'm giving it everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it started hurting. And then, you know, as the season went on, more pain, more pain. And they actually they stuck this big needle in the front of my delt, and
Ooh,
injected it full of dye and did an MRI. And they found out that I had calcified deposits all over my acromion process. And basically my labrum, every time I would throw, it was rubbing on it, and it would get inflamed and it was getting weak. So they were like, well, we got to go in there and grind all that down. Yeah, we don't have to do any sort of surgery on the ligaments and stuff, but you know, we got to get rid of that bone. And I was like, man, that's like any sort of shoulder surgery at all for a catcher is like a end of your career. Like as soon
right.
as any scout finds out you've had work done on your shoulder, yeah,
Right.
you keep playing here, right? So I was burnt out, and that's like what I hung it up. But all the powerlifting, that was always my right side was, you know, I'm right-handed. My right side's my strong side, but my right shoulder was always weak. And then sure enough, like as time went on, like I actually, like I could feel bone like popping out here as opposed to this side. And I was like, that's not right. Something's not right here. And I finally had Ray look at it um, a few years ago. And he's a chiropractor, also financial advisor, right? But like, he's like, yeah, he's like, you've had a partially separated shoulder before. And I was like, when the hell did I do that? Like,
Right.
it's
Right.
got to be during sports or during powerlifting, or, you know, but like in the moment you don't feel some of the pain. I was like, so I've apparently separated my shoulder before and never knew it.
Never knew
You know,
it.
and then it created this long-term problem that, like, I mean, I technically still have. I mean, that the only reason why I never got the surgery done is I asked the doctor at the time, I go, can I lift weights with this? And he's like, as long as you're not throwing the weights like a baseball, you're fine. So I'm like, all right,
Perfect.
cool.
Perfect.
We're good. But
Let's do that.
yeah. But yeah, now that's kind of going, I guess, full circle back to that first question of why I want to pursue classic is because I also want to snowboard and ride motorcycles and all these things I got into during my like, retirement. Um, and I believe that I could do those things at the weight that I can for classic.
Right.
Whereas if I'm like 250, 260 plus, or whatever, it's gonna be real rough. I mean, I'm sure you can, but if I fall off a motorcycle at that weight, I'm probably breaking bones and stuff.
Yeah.
When you're lighter, you bounce easier, I guess. You don't you don't hit with as much force.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so it's I think that if I get back up to like a 220, 230, like that's a good athletic weight for me. I've been there before, and I like as long as I continue with the athletic movements on the way up, I think
Right.
that I could move very well there. I mean, 6'2", 220, 6'2", 230 is not. I mean, it's a big person by normal standards, but it's not big by bodybuilding standards by any means or powerlifting standards. So, um, so yeah, that'll be fun.
Yeah, I mean, not a bad way to look at it. I've thought the same too. If I was able to kind of get back and stuff, I wouldn't want to go too far past maybe 240, but probably 250 at the most. Like I just feel lousy.
So
And it just yeah.
when does your back bother you when you bench?
It can if I arch really hard, but also right now my like I don't really I haven't put my feet down on a like regularly for probably the past year and a half, maybe 2 years. I'll usually do like feet up or a variation of, if it's a day where I'm like, I'm gonna push either like some I'm gonna shoot for like a small rep PR, which isn't a PR in general, but just like where I am right now, or I'm going to, push a little more weight than I like, maybe an extra 10 or 12% than I might be on a normal day, then I'll put my feet down, but I usually keep my feet up, also just because I can it, I'm decent on my technique and I'm not too concerned about like leg drive and stuff. I know I can figure that out. But also, yeah, just any little thing I could do to alleviate my back. Same thing, like I haven't done a regular barbell row and I've maybe done it once or twice in the past year, but being in that position, even with my belt, I'll have some lingering pain from it. So
Yeah,
most of
barbell rows are overrated, anyways.
yeah, I really yeah, I really like dumbbell, what do you call it, chest supported dumbbell, or if there's like a T-bar, like somebody's got like a good T-bar chest supported, I'll do that because I can get really deep in, and like I think you can get a deeper stretch and a
Yeah.
deeper range of motion, better squeeze, and
Well, I think
I don't have to roll off of it after.
yeah, any of the rowing stuff where you take the hips out of it, I think always translates to better contraction
Yes.
in the back. Takes the erectors out of it, but if you're deadlifting and shit, like you're not working your erectors on a barbell row, or
Right.
that's not your primary focus, anyways. But yeah, I don't know. I've wanted to ask that because like I'm sure your followers have asked you that before of
Right.
like if you were going to pursue bench only stuff, as you wait to fix your back injury, or if in your retirement if you're going to do bench only,
Yeah. Yeah.
or
I've definitely thought about that too, but I honestly don't know what has been going on with my shoulder the last like I probably haven't. I mean, I did some floor press yesterday with 135 for like a set just to see how it felt, but like I have not been able to get past like here comfortably, like maybe like just past like my elbow going to like maybe the lowest part of my back is probably about as far as I can get without having like discomfort in like my front delt. And yeah, I haven't done any benching, even dumbbell press, even like floor dumbbell press. I haven't done like, yesterday was the first time I did like any chest stuff in the last like month. And it was just like one set and it was like the seated cable. And it was just like some flies in a range of motion and some presses in a range of motion
it's
that
like
felt
a little
comfortable.
quick pump work.
Yeah, exactly. Just something to like not deteriorate my chest. But other than that, like I've been doing like like I split my workouts up to like pretty much as close to an hour as I can get, and it's like 3 movements. It's like a quad day, a hamstring day, versus most of the time that would be together, and then like a back day and arms. And like usually my arm day, I'll start off with, if I can do some chest stuff, I will. But usually I'll start it off with some pull-ups and I'll squeeze the bar so that way I can get like some some pre-fatigue in my arms and stuff. But other than that, like right now, like I haven't been able to do any pressing. Like my elbows and shoulder are usually shot from work, from like drilling and hammering and stuff like that. So I mean, if I can get those good, then yeah, maybe I'll think about benching again. But yeah,
Yeah,
I haven't been able to do anything.
it's kind of funny because like when I look back at this conversation and we talk about all this stuff from the beginning to now and the injuries and everything else, and I realize that like if somebody hires us for coaching, um, you're really like you're not paying for the information of the things that we've done, right?
Right, right.
You're paying to hopefully learn from our mistakes. Uh, that's that's the one thing that I'm like, especially with the internet today, is that like anybody can read up on studies or programs or read from your favorite influencers bullshit that they post online and learn, how to build muscle or how to build strength. But the thing that you can't read and learn as easily is experience and the things that you do wrong for a long time, So that's yeah, like one that comes to me right away is always the like bodybuilding questions of like sodium. Everybody thinks that everybody manipulates sodium like crazy for some reason.
Right.
And I was like, I tried that a few times, and if you nail it, yeah, maybe it's worth doing. But I've seen maybe a 10% success rate from even people I know and other coaches and stuff really manipulating sodium. So to me, I'm like, look, we're 95% there. Let's not screw the whole thing up trying to just get maybe 5% better.
Right.
So, I leave it alone. So I've had some shows where either as myself and with clients where we mess with sodium and screwed it all up. So when you hire me to like prep you for a show and I say like, well, we're not going to mess with sodium, it's because I fucked up before.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm trying to save you from that mistake. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's the same thing. People that I've coached, like when I say, hey, don't do this or don't do that, it's not because I'm trying to hold you back, or it's not because, I'm jealous or, anything like that. It's because I probably fucked up royally hard, if not harder than what you're about to do. You know what I mean? So like when I say like, hey, don't worry about weight class, or hey, don't worry about cutting weight, or hey, you don't have to hit the sauna, or if you're trying to cut 2 or 3 pounds, like trust me, chew some gum and spit in a cup on your way to weigh-ins, you'll probably make it. People are like mind are blown. Like they're like, wait, what? Like, I'm like, yeah, you don't have to fucking, do a 2-hour weigh-in and need an IV for a meet at, 24-hour fitness. You know what I mean? Like for a contest that they're having for best bench at 24-hour fitness. You know what I mean? Like, I think you'll live.
Yeah. Oh man. Plus, you never know. Sometimes it works out to your benefit. When I set the national record deadlift, I was in the 242 class and I weighed like 222 pounds.
Yeah.
And if I had cut down to 220, who had the records for that weight class? Dan Green.
Dan Green.
You know who was not close to any of Dan Green's records? Me. But the 242 guy, whatever that was, I got that one. And, I got a little certificate that says I held the national record for a while. So, if I had made weight and cut down to that lower weight class, wouldn't have happened. So, yeah. I don't know. I'm with you on that. We've talked about this before with powerlifting in particular. Is it's like the only reason you should cut to make weight. Well, there's multiple reasons, but in my mind, it's like first of all, you're experienced. Yeah. You've done it. It's not your first rodeo, and you're either chasing an important title or record.
Yes.
Otherwise, you should just focus on your numbers and not worry about what you're weighing in at. Yeah. But if you're like, well, I'm trying to win this specific weight class at this specific meet, well, obviously you have to do it. But
Yeah. If you're going up in a class at like a meet where it's, like nationals or something crazy, you know what I mean? Like where it's, the best of the best show up to do it, then, that, but also, like I said, if you have, like Brandon said, if you have the experience to do so, then maybe, and then like money or a record, if it's for anything other than like, oh, I want to be more competitive, like you'd be surprised how much more competitive you'll be when you don't feel like shit. You know what I mean? Like when you think you might shit yourself because you ate too many chips or whatever the night before, and your stomach can't hold it. You know what I mean? So
what's crazy is I didn't do a ton of powerlifting, right? Like I did a decent amount, but I never cut to make weight. but I do have experience with that because I did that meet, that deadlift only meet while I was prepping for a bodybuilding show. So I know what it feels like to
Right.
show up depleted and dieted down and have to do a
Hmm.
powerlifting meet. It sucks. So like you'd be surprised how much weight or how much strength you lose just from cutting off an extra 5 pounds of fluid,
Yeah.
you know? So,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
if you rehydrate wrong, you're all screwed up and you feel like shit too. So
Yeah. Yeah. Most people, like, I just put it to them like this, if you're, especially like for people that are starting out and they're trying to maintain a weight class, like the whole reason you got into lifting weights, like strip away powerlifting, strip away records, strip away any of that, is like you were trying to probably get bigger and or build some muscle, and you're probably trying to get stronger. What helped you out in the beginning was you started eating more peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, or more tuna, or more ramen, or just whatever. You just probably started eating more food, and you started performing better, and you felt better. You know what I mean? Like, and eventually the side effect of that is you looked better. So with powerlifting, especially if you're not in the realm of a record or whatever, like the biggest thing you need to focus on is just like a little progress here and there. And when you're eating enough, when you're recovered, when you're rested enough, you'll perform you know pretty awesome. And you do that long enough and you'll make significant progress. If you're always trying to maintain a weight class and look like a bikini girl, you're not going to get the size and strength that you could have been for. And if you do that for long enough, like you could have some issues. You know what I mean? Like hormone wise, recovery wise, like, and eventually injuries and stuff, tendons, joints. So like, just have fun. Like if you're doing powerlifting, like, most of the time, like me, you're doing it because you just don't want to look like a bodybuilder anymore. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like you want to live life and like, be competitive, something, and even then, like
What do
you
you
don't
know,
have to
like,
compete.
yeah. And you know what I've always like noticed is that, people that, I mean, for one, a lot of times people, they end up going the bodybuilding or powerlifting route or whatever else because of where their genetic strengths lied. We kind of
Right.
realize
Right.
what we're good at and we go with what we're good at. But outside of that, I found that the people that really love to geek out over training go to powerlifting. The people that
Yeah.
really love to geek out over performance enhancing drugs and nutrition and supplements and all that tend to go more towards bodybuilding. And then there's just
Right.
this special breed that ends up doing both. Um,
Yeah.
and I think that that's, most people that have done that, I think it's just because they were genetically able to do so. Um, like the reason I found powerlifting is because honestly, it was Johnny Jackson was the very first, because
Yeah.
all the magazines were like, he got this amazing back because he was a powerlifter. Turns out later,
Right.
I realized he had that amazing back because he's genetically predisposed to have an amazing back.
Because he's Johnny Jackson.
Yeah. But I'm sure the powerlifting helped, right? And so
Yeah,
I was
for
like, well,
sure.
I'm a skinny bodybuilder and I just got my ass kicked in my last show. I was 20 and I did juice for the first time. And I thought I was going to be the next, hot shit on the circuit and get all these sponsorships or whatever else. And placed like mid pack, like 15th out of 25 guys or whatever it was, and realized I wasn't that great. So I was angry and motivated. So I'm like, well, I'm going to go back to being natural because I'm clearly not ready for this stuff. And I'm going to power lift, and that's going to make me huge. And when I come back, I'm going to come back with with the vengeance. And that's what motivated me to power lift. It wasn't even to do a powerlifting meet. It was just to start deadlifting and squatting like with intention, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was already benching because everybody benches in the beginning, but I started doing that and realized like, hey, I'm pretty good at the squat and deadlift. Um, so I was like, well, I want to do a meet because that's just how I am if I get in something, right? So I ended up doing a meet and I did several meets, and then I did bodybuilding shows again. And then it's like every off season for bodybuilding, I found myself powerlifting because it just seemed like a good way to build muscle mass, right? But yeah, so the only reason why I think I stuck with it where I tried to do both for a while was just because I honestly, like, thinking about it, looking at open bodybuilding versus powerlifting, I'm probably genetically better to be a powerlifter. Like I think strength came to me
Yeah.
better than muscle mass did.
Right.
But then ultimately, my first love was bodybuilding, so I kind of, that's where I ran with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I think that's it. Is if you're not sure what you want to do and you're curious about them, ask yourself, do you love training to the point where like that's what you obsess over? Try
Yeah.
powerlifting. do you love nutrition and you obsess, you like to obsess over your micronutrition and things like that, then try bodybuilding. But
Right.
because as much as it's training is important in bodybuilding to know how to stimulate the muscle, just go work out hard. That's going to stimulate the muscle in bodybuilding. The rest is all nutrition, 100%. So
yeah, you nailed it. You hit it on the head.
I still think about powerlifting every once in a while. I don't think I'll ever go back to full power because I sucked at the bench press, and I'm not gonna hurt myself trying to have a little bit less shitty bench.
Yeah.
I'm okay with just letting that one sail off into the sunset and whatever. But the one I think about a lot is the deadlift. I was like, we've always talked before, like an 800-pound deadlift was probably a realistic thing for me if I just like really buckled down and focused on it. So I kind of think I was like, I don't know if I'm done powerlifting yet, just because there may come a point in time in the future where I'm going to try to do a deadlift only, just to crack 800. I don't care what I weigh, just to be able to say like, yeah, I deadlifted 800 pounds,
right?
Because I think that's what separates the men from the boys, that number anyway. So
yeah,
it's kind of a good goal to have, and
hopefully
one that's still
pretty
realistic.
Elite number.
Yeah, but I'll probably I'm excited. I'm not going to deadlift until I have my home gym, just because I go to LA Fitness right now with their hex plates and I don't want to deal with it.
Right.
But I'll be excited to see like where my deadlift is at when I get to that point, and then what I could build upon from there. Cause I don't know, the last time I took like a year off and was natty or whatever, I came back, I could still pull 500. So I'm like, I might still be in the fours somewhere, would be my guess,
I think so, for sure.
Yeah. At a certain point, it's like that strength doesn't go away,
Right. Yeah. There's something you just have.
Yeah. So we'll see. Well, did you get any other questions, man?
That was it. That was the one. Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of like this. I'm going to incorporate a lot more into my Instagram to try and get more people to bite on it. But that's really, my vision for this podcast is one, that we get to talk about us, right? And we get to just connect more and have fun with it. But I think that having people, even if you guys listening on YouTube, if you want to post questions in the comments, like we'll see it. I'll see it. I promise you.
Yeah. 100%.
And it gives us something to talk about. We'll answer your questions. And, I'm pretty much an open book. Like I'm not going to guarantee I'm going to answer your question, because if you ask a stupid question about something I'm not interested in, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
Like, like what do you think about this influencer? I'm going to just tell you, just go fuck yourself. I'm not, that's not what I'm going to answer. But if you want to talk about bodybuilding or powerlifting, performance enhancers, like all that stuff, I'll talk about that. I have no problem with that.
And also, if you just want us to roast you for your stupid question, you can also just put a stupid question and I'll tell you how stupid you are for wanting to know about said influencer or, whatever stupid shit you want to know. Like,
yeah, if you want to be roasted, we're good at that. You could roast me as well. I have very thick skin, so
roast me as well. I got this because I listen to like 1,000 different podcasts from comedians, and they're like, "Do you think you can upset me more than I upset myself? Like, you think you hate me more than I hate myself? Like, you know what I mean? Like, so go ahead and try and roast me. Like, you're only gonna get so far with me."
I've never understood it when I see people get so like bent out of shape on social media. Is I was just like, I think what it really comes down to, and I don't want to act like a cool guy by saying that like, oh, I don't like people, I don't care what they think. Cause like at the end of the day, like there's this, I'm a human being. So like I'm going to care to a certain point. But like, I think it just really comes down to like be those that say that to be cool and those that really feel that way. Cause I see people like that. I was like, so wait, you're really that bent out of shape over some stranger posting something on Facebook? Like when I see the people that get on their political battles on Facebook, I'm just there laughing at both sides. I'm like, really? You guys are like, you're that angry discussing some politician that you don't know about. You don't even know how government works. You don't even know how, like, you're upset about this. And you're like, literally, you don't even know how the thing operates. And the thing that you think you know about that person is probably like some sort of media manipulation, feeding you some bullshit. Yeah. And then this other person is just on the other side of the other media. And you guys are arguing on Facebook and you're literally getting upset about it. And I'm sitting over here like going, what am I reading this for? And I throw my phone across the room and I go do something. Exactly. Like, So the people that get bent out of shape, it's like, man, they're, influencers like that too, right? Like I think a lot of it is because they're so focused on growing their following, right? Like, which really what they're trying to do is I'm trying to grow my money. More people means more money, right? And so they get so focused on like caring about what people like followers think, or what the following, which is, all the people on social media that follow the influencers, right? Like, and I'm like, man, you got like, that person's a stranger to you. Like if they didn't post that comment, you wouldn't even know that they existed. So like, why does it have that such
Yeah.
power of you? So yeah, go ahead and roast away. I'm good with that, but make it good. Like if it's not funny, it's stupid.
Yeah. If you're gonna if you're gonna
That's what a
roast me,
roast is, right?
yeah, if you're gonna roast me, come with the heat. Don't come with this weak ass like, oh, you're bald. Yeah, okay. Fucking so what? Oh, you're short. Yeah, I'm probably shorter than the average man. I can really care less. You jack off in your mom's basement eating Cheetos. So like what could I really care? You know what I mean? Like
what's funny is that we asked for some questions and nobody gave it to us, so we go straight to like, roast us then. Fine, just
yeah,
love me somehow, give me some attention.
Yeah. If you guys don't want to ask us questions, tell us how much you hate us. Just give us something. Just give us some attention.
Please don't make us feel like it's just us two doing this by ourselves.
Yeah,
like,
right. Yeah.
This isn't fun without an audience, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something I was laughing at too, right? Like, I know Google Analytics is not 100% accurate, but like Google's Google, right? So like you're expecting it to be a certain. So I look at the YouTube Creator app or whatever, and I look at the analytics on the page and kind of trying to figure out like, it's interesting. I love data, right?
Right.
And I saw that like one of the interesting things was that the age of people that follow us now, since we started doing these podcasts, has gone up one of their segments to be like our age now.
Oh,
whereas when I was younger, like 5 years ago, posting the first videos, the demographic was like 18 to 25. Now it's like 25 to 35. So I was like, okay, that's interesting. But then the other one was that the demographic was 100% male. It said 100%.
Oh shit.
And then the comments I get on the Facebook group have been from females. So I was like, something's off here.
It's a sausage fest.
Yeah. So
guys with fake girl accounts.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Cal, so, we have 100% male viewership. It's a sausage fest.
So yeah, I'm gonna have to confront Beck on this. Be like, I thought you were watching my podcast. I thought you were supporting me. It says 100% male.
Yeah. Now me
like, I'm not even on social media.
Yeah. now me and Brandon know that means that you and his wife aren't watching.
Yeah.
This is how we found out. Fucking bullshit.
Yeah, don't argue with Google.
Yeah, you said you supported me. You said you loved me.
Well, man, I think that's a high note. Let's terminate this one. Yes. What was I gonna say? I was gonna say something to the following, all 5 of you dudes.
All you bros out there.
Yeah, post the questions. DM us on Instagram. There's a Facebook group that I could put the link in the description. Yeah. I created a private Facebook group that I have to add people into, because my goal down the road is that when I find people that are actually serious, that want to ask questions and want to just communicate on these topics, I wanted to create a group that's not just going to get spammed with a bunch of like followers, right? Like I want it to be more of a serious group where like somebody posts a question, and if Mason and I respond, or even if other members of the group respond, that it's people that are more like serious, that want to learn and share information. So you can post your questions in there. Go check that out. You can post the questions in the comments. You can post it on Instagram for, Mason and I. If you find me on Facebook, I'm not really on there outside of that group, so I may not get back to you right away with that. But yeah, I just was thinking the other day that it's like the term engagement. They say that like if you're going to be on social media performs better when you're more engaging. And I don't give a shit about all that. But I was like, the whole point of doing this is to engage with the people that are watching this, the people that are on our social media. And so I would love to engage with you more. But I'm introverted, and I'm not going to be one of those people. I just can't do it where I'm always out and in your face trying to get something from you.
Yes.
I'm more the guy that I'm just doing my thing. And if you have questions, you come to me, and I promise you I will respond. I'm not one of those people. So like, that's how I can better engage with you. And even more importantly, like I said, is if you give us content for this podcast, we can go over these things. Like, guarantee the question that you have, there's probably other people with that same question, and we'll give our thoughts, and you could tell us how much you hate us and that we're wrong afterwards, and
Yeah.
it's totally fine. But
Most of the time, for those of you that like, I respond to pretty much same thing, just about all of you, unless it's really stupid, and then I'll tell you, or I'll say pay me. But
yeah,
most of the time, like I respond to you guys in voice messages because A, I'm driving, or B, I just don't feel like typing out a really long thing, and usually with the stuff you guys want to know is pretty basic. So this is another way, if you guys have questions and stuff, to get a long form answer and to get a lot of detail with what it is, rather than just like, you know, me and Brandon being in between 5 different things and like messaging you something real quick. You know what I mean? Like this, I mean, Brandon's probably better at than I am. I'll take the time with certain people, but it's easier, like I said, for me to do a voice message or with this medium where we can just literally talk about it for an hour. We came in with one question and we somehow turned that into an hour plus podcast. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's my vision. And I'm actually thinking that within the next couple episodes we'll probably have our first guest on. I think we're ready for that.
okay.
I've had some people, obviously, like those of you that are watching this, I coach Brian Ansley, who's a 2-time classic physique Olympiad champion, real cool guy to have on here. He's ready. He'll come on whenever we want, and
Right.
I actually wanted to bring a lot of my clients on, and maybe some people you haven't heard of, and then kind of branch out to all of our industry friends, right, and bring some cool people on to talk about it. But the biggest reason why we haven't done it yet is just I wanted to make sure that we figured out all the tech side of things, which is pretty easy, but then also that Mason and I were into, like, to see that if we can make it work. We
Yeah.
had a couple week breaks, so that occasionally we'll have some breaks, but overall, like, we're pretty good at getting the schedule and getting these episodes in. So this is our 10th episode, and for those of you that have stuck with us this long through kind of a bunch of trial and error and probably a lot of nonsense we've been talking, if you guys are providing questions and we're bringing on guests, I guarantee you this will be more of an informative podcast that I hope
Right.
not only is providing you entertainment, but giving you something that's going to help you improve. And that's why I want to do it. If it's not entertaining and it's not giving you information that you want, it's kind of pointless. Mason and I aren't, we could just have a conversation without having to record it, if that was the case.
Yeah.
So,
We could just call each other on the phone.
yeah. That's pretty much it. So until next time, you're tuned into Body Geeks.